I think we want to just talk of the full year results for Dangote Cement. Ugo Dre, I don't see. What did you think of these results? Because I see profit after tax dropped like what, 48% year on year.
Yeah,
How are you seeing Dangote Cement's
46% actually.
46? Yeah, yeah. How are you seeing Dangote Cement's performance?
Very struggling year for them from what we've seen.
Mm,
Not sure the company has released notes to this account yet, so it's hard to know exactly what happened.
okay.
But from what we can see here, revenues dipped and then cost went up. OPEX was really the challenge here. So,
Mm.
for guys listening, revenue was 891 billion
Billion.
in 2019. I was hoping that Dangote Cement would hit a trillion, this year,
Mm.
but sorry, they did not.
Still on
And
MTN, I'm sure
they
that.
did, yeah, they did now 901 billion in 2018. So
Yeah, inching closer.
expectation was that they probably would have done a trillion, just cross that 1 trillion mark,
Mm.
like indigenous Nigerian company hitting 1 trillion.
Headlines
Like,
everywhere.
like,
Headlines
would have been
everywhere.
really, really great. But 891 billion, 1.1% drop year on year. Gross profits, 511 billion, 1.2% drop. So it's still an incredibly efficient company.
Mm.
Gross profit is, over 50%. I mean, like, who does that?
Who does those kind of
Yeah,
matches?
over 50%. But where they had challenges was with OPEX. OPEX rose 13% to 215 billion. Compared to 189 billion the year before, and then profit after tax was 200 billion,
Mm.
lower for 6% lower than a 390 billion they did a year ago. So very struggling year for Dangote Cement. To put into context, Zenith Bank's profit, excuse me, after tax slightly higher than Dangote Cement,
Mm.
which just shows how strong these banks are. You can't be underestimating these Nigerian banks, bro.
They are doing the
You
work.
cannot. So what happened? Interesting thing, Rotus, if you go through the results as well, you notice that Nigeria continues to be the major,
The leader, the revenue leader.
pie for the Dangote conglomerate. Out of its 800 plus billion revenue, 610 billion was coming from Nigeria
Just like that.
alone.
If you add all the rest, they don't add
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So the rest is just maybe like 200, thereabout, and that's really where the challenge is. Nigeria's revenue dropped by just about 7 billion or thereabout,
Mm.
right? But for the rest, a lot of these African, businesses, um, not a lot of growth happening there, and that's really a challenge. And I mean, investors are going to be looking at this and saying, look, hey, what's this growth strategy beyond Nigeria? Is it really working?
Mm.
Expansion into all these other African countries, Ghana, South Africa, Ethiopia, Zambia, Senegal, is it really yielding the kind of fruit that we expected? To yield. I mean, when is the growth going to come? Because what you expect is that when you're moving into these countries, you should
Yes.
see top line revenue growth, even if you're not making, a lot of progress in terms of bottom line.
Mm.
But you want to see that the growth is happening because that's where you expect to see the next growth.
Yeah.
So it probably suggests that a lot of these countries as well are struggling with revenue, and then a lot of the projects that you expect them to be doing with cement, they're not doing with cement. So Sub-Saharan Africa has been struggling for years now with growth and with
Mm.
revenue. We have a lot of revenue challenges, so that might be impacting on Dangote's business. Look at Ghana. Ghana, for example, in 2018 was doing 25 billion revenue. Last year they're doing 18 billion. South Africa, which is next biggest after Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
was doing 58.9 billion in 2018, now doing 46 billion in 2019. So
Mm.
you see growth just across, even Cameroon, just next door neighbor, from 48 billion to 45 billion. So the only place we saw growth was Tanzania,
Mm.
which sort of doubled from 19.4 billion to 38 billion. So, not too good.
No,
Roses.
not too good. In fact, I just want to touch on something. There was someone in the notes who was talking about the tax rates. So we taxed him at Nigeria taxed him at 30%. Fully. Cameroon taxed him at South Africa was 28. Cameroon taxed him at 38%.
Yeah,
What's in Cameroon that they're
That's their
taxing
tax
people
rate. That's their tax rate, and
What kind of-
that's something that a lot of sub-Saharan African countries got to look at as well. Like,
Yeah.
For you to be quite competitive, you have to look at your tax laws as well and say, look, are your tax laws incentivizing business? Because I mean, if you're taxing people at 38% to come to your country, and it's not like you're providing
anything?
enough
What is-
infrastructure for those businesses to thrive, and you're taxing them heavily. That's also something I got to look at. But in terms of share price, 14% or so price earnings ratio, pretty high. To put it into context again,
Yes.
Zenith Bank price earnings ratio 3 or 4%. I'm like, damn, go to cement 40%. You ask yourself, which one?
What's
If you
going
got
on?
your money, where do you want to put that money in? You
Right.
gotta go to cheap stock, and that's what I mean. So I mean, there's negative headwinds for a lot of banks now with shenanigans that is happening with the CBN, but these banks still remain incredibly cheap, and they're growing profits.
But people,
that's the strange thing. Even though the economy is struggling, isn't it an irony?
I know exactly it is. I mean, can you just quickly talk on their fuel and power consumed? I saw although it dropped a little bit, 133 billion in 2018, 122 billion in 2019. I mean, as far as their production and cost of sales, fuel and power still really high.
Yeah, it continues to dominate. It's not, fuel and power is not cheap, and Dangote generates its own power, by the way. So you can imagine how much it's spending, on power for its. At least I know the Nigerian, cement plants generates its own power. So in 2019, the company was doing what's that figure again? I think it was over 100 billion or there. 122.8 billion. Lower than still 133 billion. The Nigerian arm of the cement conglomerate did 69.9 billion, just slightly lower than 7.8 billion. Last year. So in total for Dangote Cement as a group, 122.8 billion. That just shows you how massive this company is. For it to be spending that kind of money on fuel and power alone. Just to provide electricity that this plant uses to run. And then in terms of cost as well, they still seem to manage cost a bit, especially salaries. Salaries pretty low compared to revenues, 12.8 billion. That's incredibly low. Nigerian conglomerate, Nigerian army loans of 6.8 billion in salaries. I wonder how much they pay those guys there. My God, and they generate so much revenue.
Right.
Yeah, but they seem to keep their overheads, their salaries, and related staff costs pretty much low. So that's Dangote Cement in a nutshell. I'm struggling here for them. This is the first time I think that the company has reported lower profits year on year. Dangote typically does better year on year profit. So I mean, it's expected to happen at some point in time. That growth can be there every year.
Right.
And this is also symptomatic of what where we are in terms of Africa. It hasn't been that rosy. So you don't expect companies that are into that sell goods that are related to GDP growth rate to continue to grow. Right. So if African economies are experiencing very low GDP growth rate, then you don't expect companies like like Dangote Cement to be doing that well. So just put it into context, like I said, okay, I think this is the second time in 2016 because of the recession they faced that stunted profit. Profit was 153 billion in 2015 and dropped it 142 billion in 2016, and then rose to 204 billion and then 390 billion 2 years later. So don't count Dangote out.
We have to see how things go. Okay, thank you for that, Ugo Dre. Nice deep dive into the numbers there. Benga Kamu said different African countries have peculiar business environments, and some of the advantages Dangote has here doesn't exist in those countries. Exactly. Good point. Tayo, who I gave a shout out to. Good morning, Rotus and Ugo Dre. Says Rotus, nice seeing you at the barbers last Sunday. Please, I want you to address.
How much did they pay for you?
How much?
Have a haircut though. How much was it?
It was 1,005, and there was VAT of 7.
Go on.
VAT of 7.5%. Ugo. All right. So Tayo says, please, I want you and Ugo to address the proliferation of the Agric crowdfunding scheme. I got another question yesterday about this. It continues to be a discussion set for a lot of people. The role regulators can play to ensure this doesn't turn into a grand Ponzi scheme, and it just so happens, Tayo, that is our next story. It was a headline. Nairametrics, you guys have addressed this. This is a headline in Business Day. Agric crowdfunding at risk of Ponzi schemes as regulation lags. Ugo, why is the regulation not as quick?
I don't know. I think that SEC fair to them, they've issued a few warnings on Ponzi schemes, and advising people not to invest in unregistered crowdfunding or crowdsourcing or collective pooling investments.
Mm.
And then, some of us have also been screaming out, like, look, avoid these guys. But what you're seeing here is what typically happens in an environment or economy where you have very low interest rates. People have cash,
Right.
and they're looking for where to put that money in, right? So, and they're seeing inflation galloping to 12.13%. And then you're telling me that to put my money in the bank, it's going to be 1% savings rate, right? So, and then treasury bills, which ordinarily would have been where I would have put that money to, you've now said, oh, it has to be 50 million and above, and blah, blah, blah. And even at that, even if I manage to find my money in treasury bills, I'm getting 5-6%. So people are looking for yield. And then stock market, it's very unpredictable. So even though yields, you can actually have yield in the stock market. Like I said, if you invest in, United Capital, any bank, a lot of these companies that have actually, released their results and posted dividends, these guys are doing dividend yields in the double digits. Happens, in Nigeria.
Yes.
Dividend yield is typically about 5-6%, but now you're seeing dividend yields double treasury bills, yields. So, but then nobody wants to put money in the stock market because they're afraid, or even if you put your money in there and you get those dividend yields, your money might be stuck in there because the share price might continue to go down.
Right.
So you lose on capital gains. So that's why people are worried. So, and then what do you expect people to do? Looking for money. Well, they probably even have money in mutual funds already. So we're saying, look, you got to diversify your portfolio, put your money in several places. So you already have money in mutual funds, you have money in stocks, you have money in treasury bills, you have money in T-bills, real estate,
yes.
yeah, even in Euro bonds and all these things. And then you're I need a little bit of risk now. Make I just take small risk, you know what I mean? So, oh, you mean if I put 100k, they give me 30k every month? Just 100k. Let me just put it in. So that's what's happening, and you see, guys are predators as well. So they know that people are out there, people are greedy, people are looking for, alpha. So they offer you all sorts of stuff. Some might, have realistic, business models, which is fair. But then a lot of these things are not tested. So you also see guys who come up with this thing. They've never had any experience in the agric space. So you just come together, pool funds. And you know what? Anybody can pool funds. Like I said, Rotos, you can even do it. You can say, look, I want to pool funds for people who will go and be spreading the gospel of financial literacy. Right. And then, this is how much you make. Just couch it very well and then put it out there and then tell them you're going to give them all sorts of returns, and people would bring money. So, for SEC, I think that we have to continue with investor education. They have to be massive about it. You have to go all guns blazing, on radio, on TV, blogs, and social media, and let people know that this is quite risky. But then you got to face the fundamentals. Provide alternative investment, get people to be confident about their local stock market. The American stock market has been bullish for almost a decade now.
Right.
And they're not waiting for you and I to make it this way. They're investing in their company. So when you see Amazon and you see Google and you see these guys doing very well, it is not because they have some kind of genius or whatever. It's because the stock market is good. These companies can continue to raise capital on an incredibly low cost, and then continue to invest and spread their gospel across the world. But it's not happening here in Nigeria. So,
Thank you. JLo says the fine line between CIS and crowdfunding and a likely gap in the capital market law. This is the lag. Who else here? We have Goke from the UK says, good morning, Ugo and Rotos. Dangote isn't enjoying these free benefits in other countries compared to what the government gives him in Nigeria. We're talking about the margins.
Can you guys just stop castigating this guy? I mean, if it was you would take it. He hasn't broken any law, has he? Yeah. Exactly. So if you got your own business, nobody's stopping you to go apply for pioneer status. Go and do your own now. Go and start your own business and get your grant if it's that easy.
Joel says, hi, Rotos and Ugo. I think the road construction to be done by Dangote will definitely affect his bottom line. AI says, let's see, what do we have here? What do we have here? Okay, Benga Kamu says, even some of those companies that sell alternative medicines have structures like a Ponzi scheme. He's referring to what you just talked about now.
Exactly.
Let's see here. Okay, then see, Prince, why did I even say this? Did you say you pay 15,500 and VAT for your haircut? Did they give you small chops and drinks? Prince says he pays 300. Okay, Prince, that's nice to know.
Whatever.
I know, right? Okay, Rookie, you mentioned interest rates. We just had a T-bill auction. I believe it was yesterday. The rates again, Ugo, still.
Yeah, I just said it. You can see it's getting worse, guys. It's getting worse. So if you put money in T-bills, 91 days, they're giving you just 3% per annum. Think about it. That is negative 9% real return. And then if you put it for 1 year, 5.7%. I mean, like, come on, man. Like,
So why wouldn't they run towards
so
crowdfunding
maybe
schemes?
MFL is telling you invest in yourself. Maybe you start your own business and then like invest in yourself so that maybe one way or the other you can create jobs. Do what some of us are also trying to do.
What about the costs? What about the costs?
I don't know. Like, take a risk on yourself.
Now what? Ugo, oil dropped to $53 a barrel yesterday. This coronavirus thing is still, this is the headline. Oil slumps below Nigeria's budget benchmark, its lowest in a year, as fear of the virus hit continues to spread. This thing is not going away.
It is not, unfortunately, and that's until we get, a cure. The thing with virus is very difficult to get a cure for a virus. What you can get is maybe, what's this thing? Immunity. This preventive medicines that they can give you, and I don't think scientists have been able to come up with anything yet. So that fear is there. It's kind of strange that it hasn't gotten to Africa. God forbid, though. Someone said that when it gets to Africa, it will die. That's the way to die. Can be like we faced harsher diseases and we've been able to survive.
I heard it's in Algeria. I think there's one case in Algeria that I heard about.
Algeria is not Africa. I've told you guys before. Algeria, Egypt, those ones are not Africa. Just
you
leave
don't
them.
count Algeria.
They are more in the Middle East than in that's why it says sub-Saharan Africa. You know what I mean?
Right.
But nevertheless, it's hitting badly on not just on oil, even on stocks. Global stock prices has dropped 2 days straight, and that's because everybody is afraid of a pandemic. And once the the World Health Organization declares this a pandemic, then it saying that they're expecting a spread in the US, and that basically spooked markets. So, and that's also because when they start to declare things like this pandemic and call it also so scared, then it means that people can do businesses. You can travel, you can go for your meetings, you can broker deals. So people start to cut back on investment, and that's why you're seeing the price of oil dip. Nigeria's oil, by the way, is Brent. It's actually benchmarked against Brent, and that's Bonny Light. So Bonny Light as well is slightly higher than Brent crude price, but we sort of always use Brent. So the price you're seeing there is the general WTI, I think, so which trades much lower than Brent, but nevertheless it's still a challenge for us. Budget benchmark I think is $57 or thereabout, and then we're looking at oil actually just hanging around that range. So what is the government going to do? Taxes. They're just probably going to keep squeezing us, for more taxes so that they can survive. And then the biggest scare as well is GDP growth rate. So we get very scared because oil is still very important to our GDP. So if this continues and we can't get enough oil revenue in, then it's going to be harder times for us down the line.
Well, I see this message helpful for that. Thank you for that. We'll go. Tunde here says, I think there's a deliberate campaign from the traditional financial institutions to smear the agricultural crowdfunded schemes. Every investor considers risk before investing, so why worry too much for the investors? After all, the same bank stocks and other financial institutions make huge profits but pay investors
no. Nobody tells you. If someone can give you 30% monthly, why does he need your money?
Right.
Just simply go to any of these microfinance banks and take that money. I don't need you. I don't need to advertise anywhere. So you got to think that way. Like, it's counterintuitive when you have to. Who does that? Oh, Rotus, man, I have this business. So look, if I put 100 naira in it, I make 50 naira every month. So I'm not gonna tell you.
Exactly. Why do you need my money?
I will just tell you, Rotus, just borrow me 100 naira. No, I'll give you back next month.
Exactly. And you gotta make it for yourself.
I gotta make it for myself. Like, so you gotta be very careful, guys. Very, very careful. These things are just smart thinking.
Keep reading Nairametrics to get that advice, and keep listening to this show. Ugo Dre, thank you so much, Ugo Dre, Nairametrics for joining us. Thank you all for your messages. Business Express Smooth 98.1. We'll see you tomorrow, same time.